It all started in ancient Egypt about 10,000 years ago. The queen of the Watutsi tribe named Lilith, who was married to the king of the Watutsi tribe named Atum. They came down from the mother ship Nibiru. They were from Orion. They were the parents of Cadmon, who is also called Adam. Some people teach that Lilith was Adam's first wife before Eve, who is also called Nekibar, but Lilith was his mother. They dwelled in the place you call Egypt today. There was also another group of beings called the Nomos. You know, those who claim to know the most. They were ugly water beings. They were reptilians from the Sirius B star in the Sirius star system. They came to Earth and dwelled in the lakes and rivers of ancient Egypt. These beings begin mixing their seed with humans, creating hybrid children. The Watusi tribe were considered to be disagreeable beings. Adam's mother's blood come from the Vulcans. One day Lilith, the wife of the chief of the Watusi tribe, became dissatisfied with him. She left the village to seek out one of the kings of the Nomos beings called Yorba. When she met Yorba, he impregnated her. She birthed Asmodeus, king of the vampires. He was the firstborn. He said, "I am known by many names, the Lord of Nessus, the ninth cave system, which is the first. He is also called Ashmedai, the king of demons." Another name for him is Draken Dracula or Count Dracula. Lilith is known as the mother of the vampires since she birthed the first vampire. She's also called Lamagra by the originals. The Book of the Nosferatu or Vampire, alternatively known as the Original Testament, Book of the Dead or the Vampire Bible, is the sacred text of the Nosferatu vampire religion. In one of their scriptures about their mother Lilith, it said, "Lilith is omnipresent, day and night, light and dark. She waxes and wanes in presence, reflecting the coming and going of all things, the expanding and contacting of our lungs, the ebb and flow of the ocean, the heave and sway of universal energies, the beginning and ending of our lives. Her dark spirit of enlightenment is expressed in the heavens. It has to be dark to see the stars. In her dark world, stars will shine and shower us with light. Her sight is upon all things and within all things. Her eternal flight from the repressive and elitist Garden of Eden and the rigid demands of the patriarchal system is representative of the pure freedom of spirit that all women and men deserve, and her wings beat the breath of beauty and sensual love into all things. The Nomos beings also mixed with the Dogon tribe. The Dogon people worshipped these beings and would give them fresh virgins to mate with every year. Through the bloodline of Asmodeus, the demon and the Dogon people, this created a new race, a hybrid race of beings who became known as the Nosferatu. They are Nomos humanoid hybrids. They later became known by many other names such as vampires, succubi, bloodsuckers, desvampire, the undead, demons, devils, reptilian hybrids, and hominus nocturna. They had a thirst for fresh blood. They were eating and drinking the humans' children's blood. This went on for hundreds of years until the humans, mainly being the tribe of Kush, raised up and created a band of assassins called the Kushnik. They were also known as the Medjay. The Medjay were a semi-nomadic people from the tribe of Kush, whose homeland was in the eastern desert ranging from Egypt to the Red Sea. They are mentioned as early as 2400 BC, when Egyptian texts recorded them as warriors serving with the Egyptian military. They are the first knights. Also keep in mind, the Kushite are the original Israelites. The Dogon were the original Christians. Like we said, Christianity is an old ancient Nomos religion taught to the Dogon people by the Nomos beings. There were male and female Kushites, vampire hunters. These beings were also known as Moors or Moors. They were alchemists, wizards, witch doctors and shamans whose spirit wanders from the body in the form of an animal. A shaman is a person regarded as having access to and influence in the world of good and evil spirits, especially among some peoples of Northern Asia and North America. Typically, such people enter a trance state during a ritual and practice divination and healing. These vampire hunters, called Kushnik, banded together and started killing these beings. The vampires were losing and tried to go underground in ancient Egypt, but they were pursued and killed. At this time, there were 12 tribes. If you listen close, you will see this story lines up with the Jacobites, also known as the Hyksos people. The Hyksos migrated to Egypt from the Levant region of Western Asia. They were originally immigrants, free grazers, who took advantage of the Nile Delta's fertile land and prosperous trade. Over time, they gained political power and became the so-called rulers of Lower Egypt during the 15th dynasty. The 12 tribes were exiled by the Kushnik Moors. Some of them, who were not captured, fled to the Carpathian Mountains and the regional land of Transylvania in Romania, Europe. The Carpathian Mountains form a 1,500 km long range in Central and Eastern Europe. They stretch west to east in an arc from the Czech Republic to Romania. The Tatra range between Slovakia and Poland is a national park and has several peaks above 2,400 meters. More than half of the Carpathian range lies in Romania, where spruce forests are home to brown bears, wolves and lynxes. Transylvania is a region in central Romania. It's known for medieval towns, mountainous borders and castles like Bran Castle, a Gothic fortress associated with the legend of Dracula, who is really Asmodeus, king of the vampires. When they got to Transylvania, they went underground and formed their first cave city called Erebus. They formed the Council of 12, called the House of Erebus. They also were known as the Shadowy Council and the Hellfire Council. The Shadowy Council is a group of 12 pure-blood vampires who rule the House of Erebus.
Erebus was also the name applied to a dark region of the underworld that souls passed through on their way to Hades, the realm of the dead. The Kushnik Medjay Moors wanted to exterminate the bad ones, so they chased them out of Transylvania. Some of them stayed in Transylvania, which is where they made their capital. A part of them broke off who were being chased by the Kushnik Moors and went to Switzerland. Switzerland, officially the Swiss Confederation, is a landlocked country located in West Central Europe. It is bordered by Italy to the south, France to the west, Germany to the north, and Austria and Liechtenstein to the east. Remember the Switzerland coat of arms and the Switzerland flag. It's going to come back up later. Also keep in mind about the American Red Cross blood drive, plural blood drives, an activity, usually charitable, in which persons are requested to donate blood, either to maintain a general supply or in response to a specific shortage or emergency. The general supply is to keep the vampires happy. Remember the Red Cross blood drive logo? Most of the vampires are rich and own a lot of businesses on the surface. They mostly own blood banks. They have underground blood banks where they have humans in suspended animation while they drain their blood. There are thousands of humans down there. They also have blood drive places all over the world where they pay people for their blood. You ever wonder where all that blood is going? They don't need all that bloods. The vampires are running these businesses. They have an enhanced taste for blood, which tastes like sweet nectar, and they can feel high. Not only is the taste of human blood much stronger for vampires, but the experience of the adrenaline drugs in human blood gives them a rush. When they got to Switzerland, they went underground and set up their second city called Gotthard, an advanced planned underground logistics system. Switzerland is the only country in the world with a law requiring that each person has 1 square meter of underground shelter. They made an alliance with the bad witches for protection. This made them harder to track because the witches used spells to help them hide. They set up underground vaults to store their blood, gold, diamonds, rubies, and other valuable things. The bad witches and wizards, also called dirty Moors and Morans, had already set up schools for their people to be trained. The low-class vampires, who became known as the Outsiders, were left by the high-ranking members to fend for themselves. They were still being hunted by the Kushnik Medjay Knights. Those who were left to fend for themselves fled to Paris, France. Here they kept a low-key profile for a while. They tried to blend in with the humans. They also went underground and set up their third underground city. They began to grow in numbers, and their thirst for blood grew as well. Some of them started breaking the rules that they set up to keep a low profile. The Kushnik began hunting them there and kicked them out of France. They fled France to Al-Maghrib. They set up their fourth underground city there in the Sahara Desert. Many people don't know, but just like in the deserts of Nevada and New Mexico, where there is underground bases and cities, there is also underground bases and cities in the Sahara Desert. The vampires' largest city is in Al-Maghrib, which you call today Al-Morocco. They wanted to expand because their food supply was getting low. So some of them went to the islands of the Caribbean. When they got to the Caribbean in 1492 AD, they landed in Barbados. Barbados is an island country in the Lesser Antilles of the West Indies, in the Caribbean region next to North America and north of South America. Barbados is an Eastern Caribbean island and now an independent British Commonwealth nation. They saw a people that didn't know of their devil mentality. They set up their fifth underground city in Barbados. They fed on the blood of people for hundreds of years until the Kushnik found out they were hiding there and begin hunting them there. At this time, some of the Kushnik became known as pirates. Another group left Al-Maghrib and went to Spain, where they set up their sixth underground city, speeding up to 1492 to 1607. Some Knights of Templar with dark skin who were Moors arrived on Turtle Island claiming to be hunting these beings for the Pope. They were called the Black Conquistadors. One of them name was Juan Garrido, who was a Black Moor, so-called Afro-Spaniard conquistador, known as the first documented so-called black person in what would become the United States. Born in West Africa, he went to Portugal as a young man who helped Christopher Columbus, the mulatto, sail to America. Christopher Columbus was a hybrid vampire. In converting to Catholicism, he chose the Spanish name Juan Garrido, Handsome John. Like we said, some of the Moors thought they were Macs or pimps. Keep in mind what a John is in the pimp game, a trick. That's why the pimps today have names like Pretty Tony, Generous George, and Too Pretty Kenny. He is the first known so-called African to arrive in North America. They were employed as mercenaries for the Virginia Company. The Virginia Company was owned by its shareholders, who were mostly Londoners, the Lords of London. The company was a joint stock venture, meaning that investors, called adventurers, purchased shares of the company's stock. Profits were shared among the investors based on the amount of stock they owned. A mercenary, also called a merc, soldier of fortune, or hired gun, is a private individual who joins an armed conflict for personal profit, is otherwise an outsider to the conflict, and is not a member of any other official military. They are also called bounty hunters. A bounty hunter is a private agent working for a bail bondsman who captures fugitives or criminals for a commission or bounty. They came a few years too early because the vampires did come, and the native Nubians of Turtle Island wasn't aware of these beings' devilishment. In 1619 to 1620, the vampires got chased out of Spain and landed in Plymouth, Massachusetts, where they established their seventh underground colony. They were called the Pilgrims. Keep in mind, the natives didn't call it Plymouth. The vampires named it after their last known place they were free grazing off of, called Plymouth, England. The area that is now Plymouth, Massachusetts, was originally called Patuxet, a Wampanoag village. The area was also known as New Plymouth, a name given to it by Captain John Smith, the vampire, who explored the area in 1614. They say it took them 66 days to reach Turtle Island. Pocahontas was born about 1596 and named Amanute, though she also had a more private name of Matoaka. She was called Pocahontas as a nickname, which meant playful one because of her frolicsome and curious nature. She was the daughter of Wahunsanaka, Chief Powhatan, the Mamanatovic, paramount chief of the Powhatan chiefdom. At its height, the Powhatan chiefdom had a population of about 25,000 and included more than 30 Algonquian-speaking tribes, each with its own Werowance chief. The Powhatan Indians called their homeland Tsenakomoko. As the daughter of the paramount chief Powhatan, custom dictated that Pocahontas would have accompanied her mother, who would have gone to live in another village after her birth. Powhatan still cared for them. As a young girl, Pocahontas would have worn little to no clothing, and had her hair shaven except for a small section in the back that was grown out, long and usually braided. The shaven parts were probably bristly most of the time, as the Powhatan Indians used mussel shells for shaving. In winter, she could have worn a deerskin mantle. Not everyone could afford one. As she grew, she would have been taught women's work, even though the favorite daughter of the paramount chief Powhatan afforded her a more privileged lifestyle and more protection. She still needed to know how to be an adult woman. Women's work was separate from men's work, but both were equally taxing and equally important, as both benefited all Powhatan society. As Pocahontas would learn, besides bearing and rearing children, women were responsible for building the houses, called yehakins by the Powhatan, which they may have owned. Women did all the farming, planting and harvesting, the cooking, preparing and serving, collected water needed to cook and drink, gathered firewood for the fires, which women kept going all the time, made mats for houses, inside and out, made baskets, pots, cordage, wooden spoons, platters and mortars. Women were also barbers for the men and would process any meat the men brought home, as well as tanning hides to make clothing. Another important thing Pocahontas had to learn to be an adult woman was how to collect edible plants. As a result, she would need to identify the various kinds of useful plants and have the ability to recognize them in all seasons. All of the skills it took to be an adult woman Pocahontas would have learned by the time she was about 13, which was the average age Powhatan women reached puberty. When the vampires arrived and settled Jamestown in May 1607, Pocahontas was about 11 years old. Pocahontas and her father would not meet any vampires until the winter of 1607, when Captain John Smith, the vampire, was captured by Powhatan's brother Opechancanough. Once captured, Smith was displayed at several Powhatan Indian towns before being brought to the capital of the Powhatan chiefdom Werowocomoco to Chief Powhatan. To make a long story short, John Rolfe and John Smith both competed for her love. They were dark-skinned Moors, you know the Macs. John Rolfe the vampire ends up winning her over. He took Matawaka back to Gravesend, England, where he took her blood and birthed a hybrid vampire child named Thomas Rolfe. Keep in mind, this is about the blood. They needed the blood to tie themselves into the native Mexem, American people vine. Keep in mind, the spirit is in the blood. Leviticus 17:11 in the Bible states, "For the life of the flesh is in the blood." In 1 John chapter 5, verses 8, it said, "And there are three that bear witness in earth, the spirit and the water and the blood, and these three agree as one." There are many stories surrounding Pocahontas' death. One story is that Pocahontas became gravely ill shortly after setting sail for Virginia with John Rolfe. The cause of her death is unknown, but some speculate it was tuberculosis, pneumonia, dysentery, smallpox, or poisoning. One story is that John Rolfe and his people threw her overboard and she drowned. They said this happened because Pocahontas found out they were trying to infiltrate them by stealing their bloodline. Another story was that John Rolfe was so in love with her that he lost his own life to help Pocahontas escape back to her homeland. Some said Pocahontas was buried in the churchyard of St. George's Church in Gravesend, a burial place that indicated she was considered a lady. Pocahontas, about 21, was buried at St. George's Church on March 21st, 1617. They say her grave is thought to be underneath the church's chancel, but the church was destroyed in a fire in 1727. We don't believe this story. Some say because of John Rolfe, Pocahontas secretly escaped, but Pocahontas' son, Thomas Rolfe, was too sick to travel with her and remained in England. He sailed for Virginia in 1635, 13 years after his father's death. Thomas Rolfe was a hybrid vampire. He brought back with him everybody who was kin to him on his dad's side of the family, who were all vampires. They brought their rats and their dogs. They began creating Turners and hybrid vampire children. They started killing off the chiefs and princes on the land. They began to drink the blood of the children on the land. Now, when I finish telling you this story, you will know why they created the book and movie called Abraham Lincoln, the Vampire Hunter. The vampires are the ones who put the play on Lincoln. This reminds me of a funny story where this rapper named Moneybag Yo said he went to the Vatican and the Pope tried to finesse him out of $50. The group of vampires who were in Barbados, blood supply was going low, so in 1690 they landed in New Orleans. The native didn't call it New Orleans. Before the vampires arrived, the area was called Bulbancha, which is a Washita Choctaw Chickasaw word that means land of many tongues. Before it was called New Orleans, the city was known as La Nouvelle Orléans, which was a vampire from France. In 1718, French explorer Jean-Baptiste Lemoyne de Bienville, who was a vampire, named the city La Nouvelle Orléans in honor of Philippe II, Duke of Orléans the Vampire. After France lost the 7-Year War in 1763, Spain took control of New Orleans and renamed it Nueva Orleans. When the United States acquired Louisiana from France in 1803, the French name was adopted and anglicized to become the modern name. New Orleans has many nicknames, including the Big Easy, Crescent City, the Paris of the South, and Crawfish Town. When they landed in Bulbancha, they set up their 8th underground colony. There were already witches and wizards in Bulbancha, sometimes referred to as shamans or witch doctors. Out of fear, some of the witch doctors joined with them to help them live on the natives' land. The vampires begin growing their population by turning normal people into vampires, which they called newborns. The newborns weren't daywalkers like the originals. Daywalkers are a type of vampire or half-vampire who can walk in the daylight without harm. The witches created spell rings so that these hybrid vampires could walk in the day. The originals, who were dark-skinned, could come out under the sun for a couple hours as long as they had on this lotion made from alligator fat and hippopotamus oil. Sunlight or ultraviolet rays will kill the hybrid, but it won't kill the original. You have to remove their head and stake their heart. Alkaline water burns them as well. They call it holy water. They need fresh human blood to survive. Some of them were once people, so you won't know it's a vampire until it's too late. They are soulless and thus considered as dead beings, though they are still sentient, with Babylonian blood magic affecting all their ways of life, including their diet and biology. Since they lack souls, the only way they can sustain their existence is by stealing the life force of other living beings. This includes stealing souls and feeding on animals, but mostly by drinking the blood of others. You see, what they're not going to tell you is that America is Israel, America is Jerusalem. The name Salem is an anglicized version of the biblical name for peace, Shalom. There were over 50 cities called Salem in Amexem, Turtle Island, America. Today there is still around 29 cities called Salem. You have Salem in New Jersey, Salem in Connecticut, Salem in Illinois, Salem in Alabama, Salem in Indiana, Salem in Florida, Salem in Iowa, Salem in Kentucky, Salem in Georgia, Salem in New York, Salem in Ohio, Salem in Oklahoma, and Salem in Massachusetts. There are many more, but you get the picture. The so-called good vampires went to hide out in these cities called Salem on the land. The Knights of Templar were hunting these beings for the popes of Rome. The people of Salem were called Muslims. One who is of the City of Peace. This started the Salem witch trials. The Salem witch trials were a series of hearings and prosecutions of people accused of witchcraft in colonial Massachusetts between February 1692 and May 1693. More than 200 people were accused. Under the Spanish Inquisition, the church considered anyone who wouldn't convert to Christianity to be the devil. Most of the natives did out of fear, but they kept their native tradition. They would practice their faith at night in the middle of the woods. If they were caught, they would be labeled as witches and warlock. They would be captured and burned alive at the stake by the church. During this time, many bad and good witches and vampires went into hiding. The vampires and witches began mixing their seed. Some of them migrated to Brooklyn, New York, where they set up an underground colony there. Some of them went to upstate New York and set up a gated community there. Some of them went to Salt Lake City, Utah. They went underground there and set up secret compounds. They started a religionist group called the Mormons. Moormans, you hear it? Some of them hid in Bergen County, New Jersey. They went underground and set up gated communities there. They also migrated to Los Angeles, California, where they set up Hollywood. They live in gated communities in the mountains and have underground cities there. This is how they control and manipulate the masses. Hollywood, the wood of the holly tree, was used by the Druids to make magic wands. The Druids believed that the holly had magical powers, which was why they used its wood to make magic wands. The Druids is one of the names for a secret witch bloodline. A Druid was a member of the high-ranking priestly class in ancient black Celtic cultures. Druids were religious leaders as well as legal authorities, adjudicators, law keepers, medical professionals, and political advisors. Druids left no written accounts. The Druids became your movie directors today. They have what you call a casting. Casting is the process of selecting actors, dancers, singers, or extras to play characters in a movie, TV show, play, or other production. Cast a spell is an idiom that means to use words that are thought to be magical, especially to have an effect on someone. A key part of this is words have power. They use words through the television to tell lies on your vision, to cast their spells. Did you know to be an actor you have to be a vampire, wizard, or witch? Keep in mind, a director carries a wand. They have what they call sitcoms. A sitcom is a genre of comedy that centers on a recurring cast of characters as they navigate humorous situations within a consistent setting, such as a home, workplace, or community. They make you sit calm as they cast their spells called hypnosis. To hypnotize someone is to induce a state of deep relaxation or trance in which the person is calm and focused but still awake and able to respond to things. Hypnosis is often used to treat or cause psychological or emotional disorders. Hypocritical means acting in a way that goes against what you say you believe or feel. The word hypocritical comes from the Greek word hypokritikos, which means acting a part. Through the TV, they teach people how to do devilishment. Through the spells, they control the people. People do what they see on the movies. Keep in mind, movies are designed to move you and me. They have drama, which is a spell, thriller, which is a spell, horror, which is a spell, and etc. I think you get the picture. Most of them fed off human blood. One group broke off and started to be good. They fed off of animal blood. In order to create a vampire, a human must be drained of their blood by a vampire, and the blood loss needs to be replaced by some of the vampire's blood. The vampire and human must then sleep in the ground. This is presumably the point where they technically die, until the newborn rises as a vampire the following night. The newborn and the maker will subsequently have a maker-progeny bond, unless the maker deserts or releases their progeny. Newborn vampires will be thirsty and will need to feed to survive. Although newborns have some control of their abilities, they are mostly controlled by their impulses and can cause serious harm and accidental deaths to humans around them. In addition, newborns cannot resist blood at all, as resistance develops with age. A newborn's existence depends upon their abilities, which are taught to them by their maker. These abilities take time to learn and develop. As vampires age, they become more adept at controlling their abilities. 2/3 of newborns die during their first year without the guidance of their makers. A maker has a deep connection with his or her progeny, something that humans cannot fully understand or experience. During the transformation from human to vampire, the maker and soon-to-be progeny share their essence whilst buried in the ground, a supernatural process that not even vampires understand.
So if y'all remember watching Queen of the Damned or that movie Vampire in Brooklyn, these are your type of Klingon nations right here, the vampiric race of Elohimic vampires, right? Also that show called The Man That Fell to Earth with Faraday. These are the types of beings I'm talking about. So when we came through these portal into this third dimension, the Draconians were already here, like I was saying. We've been had wars with them for millennia, but we also had eventually created a peace treaty with them, merging our genetic pool with theirs, creating a whole different species called the Klingon nations. These beings are highly intelligent, super fast, and incredibly strong. And their weapons are nothing like anything you ever seen. They just got everything souped up about them. When this test is over and the Elohim return, the Klingon nations will be coming back with them to help retake back the Earth to reestablish order and principle on this planet.
The Moorish Empire ruled for 711 years of dominance. The Moors were looking to replicate New Egypt globally. They started to procreate with the Slavs.
Just like the Illuminati is able to drink adrenochrome and baby blood to stay alive for a long time, the Elohimic vampiric races are able to do the same thing, and she's actually basically a Klingon. She's part of the Klingon nation. There are a lot of them that are actually still on this earth that are able to blend in, but the ones that look more draconian, they're gonna stay on the ship and probably be underground. Just like the Illuminati is able to drink adrenochrome and baby blood to stay alive for a long time, the Elohimic vampiric races are able to do the same thing, and she's actually basically a Klingon. She's part of the Klingon nation. There are a lot of them that are actually still on this earth that are able to blend.
Call them the Anus. We call them the Anunnakis, or the Dracos. These are the real vampires, the fallen ones spoken of in biblical scriptures. They've been in hiding in the foreshadows, controlling the governments, collecting gold on this planet in hopes that their people will return and save them. They hate the original black man and woman and can live forever if they consume our plasma, which they do vigorously. In their attempts to wait it out, they have used the governments which they control around the world to enslave the original black man and woman. Yes, the Anus, the Anunnakis, the Dracos, they come from the Draco constellation. Do your research. All the ancient civilizations worship these beasts as gods. The original black man and woman were placed on this planet and given it for free reign. These creatures have attempted to hijack this from us. The war is on. Us against
higher in real life. PT2.
can understand the esoteric meaning. We are vampires, but we're not the vampires that suck blood. The melanin inside of us comes out in the central nervous system at night and feeds off the blood. In return, it heals the body. So the vampire that we're talking about is an inner vampire, because we are hominus nocturni, or nocturnus, which means that we are night breed. Which means that all of the central nervous system, the pineal, the kundalini, and the pineal and the pituitary gland and all that stuff kicks into action at night. And as a result, these substances, which is literally ancestors, that's where they go. You think you pouring in some other shit, they live inside of you.
The Akunanzi, vampires of Africa, tread a unique path. Echoing the cunning spider from Ashanti tales, they are the sage wanderers, deeply intertwined with the primal essence of the earth, embodying traits of creatures revered and feared. The spider, the lion, the hyena, the snake. Under the cloak of night, they roam the vast landscapes of Africa, driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge, wisdom, and the means to endure. Their odyssey knows no bounds, stretching over plains, scaling mountains, skirting coastlines, and penetrating the depths of jungles, engaging with both mortals and fellow Libon to exchange and gather sage insights. Valued as counselors, negotiators, and teachers, their wisdom, culled from their extensive travels, is a beacon for other influential Libon seeking guidance. As they weave through the intricate dance of Libon politics, their core pursuit remains the profound comprehension of both nature and humanity, a journey that often sees them embracing their inner beast more deeply as their knowledge expands. This evolution is both a mark of their path and a deeper connection to the world's beginnings and its inherent order. Their outward form mirrors this internal journey and growth, taking on bestial features that symbolize the depth of understanding they've achieved. Their dwellings are as varied as their journeys, a testament to their bond with the natural world and a reflection of their nomadic spirits. Unlike their European counterparts, the Akunanza harbor less fear or disdain for their bestial nature. Freed from the shackles of sin and guilt, they embrace the call of their beast with a remarkable level of control, a mastery forged through the trials of survival and communion with the wilderness. Their unique discipline, Abomwe, akin to the gangrel's protean, enables them to sense, mimic, or transform into animals, enhancing their physical prowess. This art, seldom shared with European Canaanites, underscores their harmonious relationship with their beast. At their core, the Akunansi are embodiments of the quest for wisdom, a journey that goes beyond the mere physical to explore the roots of humanity and the natural world. Their path underscores the belief that understanding our origins sheds light on the future, even as it peels away humanity's facade, revealing the beast within and the profound insights it offers. The Akunansi, vampires of Africa, tread a